So being the first Monday of the month, we have this opportunity again to share in the healing practice that we do each month. And it's a pleasure to welcome you all. Quite a few of you have been regulars for this session, and some no doubt will be new to it. And again, we're basically using our minds to influence our body. And in this sort of practice, we're going even a little further. We're using our minds to offer assistance to other people's bodies and emotions, mental states, even spiritual states. And I think collectively, our society is getting used to the idea of mind-body medicine. I know there was a time in medical history where both medical scientists and other scientists were carrying on as if the head and the body were completely separate and weren't connected. If you like a little bit of humour, back in those days, if I was talking to a group of doctors and there was a sense that that connection wasn't so obvious, I would ask them if they would like to do a little experiment just to check whether the head and whether the mind and the body were connected. And I would ask them to put their hands up like this. You might like to do this with me. You want to do it? It's fun. Put your hands up like this, and then you just put them here and you check. And it shows you fairly quickly that your head's actually connected to your body. I don't know whether I won friends or lost them with that little exercise, but it seems pretty jolly obvious that the head's connected to the body. And so I think the right question is, how much does the brain affect the body? And of course, these days we know the brain isn't the only seat of the mind, as it were, that the mind's all through the body. And in fact, the gut has got and the biome has a huge influence on how the body functions. So I think that's sort of getting into popular knowledge. And it's taken time. It's taken science time to in the modern era to really appreciate that. I think, before this period where science was approaching the body as if healing of the body, disease in the body was only to do with the body and physical matters, that was a fairly short period of time, maybe a few decades. Before that, I don't think it was thought of as that way, and certainly these days there'd be very few people who would regard it in that light. But this notion that we can collectively, through meditation type practices and specifically imagery, influence other bodies' way of functioning, other people's bodies' ways of functioning, that's probably still a little out there for sort of mainstream science. I don't know. I think it's changing, and it probably gets a little bit caught up to with things like prayer and sort of prayer being perhaps on the conservative end of that sort of spectrum of the mind influencing the way the body can function from a distance, and how collective prayer can influence people's health. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've probably got a whole lot of sort of new age, so-called new age practices that probably run through a fairly wide range of validity and even sensibility, maybe. So what I'd suggest to you, and I would imagine if you've come to this session, is that you're at least pretty open to this notion I'm just curious, actually. I'm going to change my view so I can see more of you. Um, uh, Maybe those of you who've got your cameras off, I'd just be curious to ask how many of you have a personal experience through either personally, as in to do with your own health or the health of somebody else. How many of you have the experience of prayer having made a really big difference in somebody's life? Because I know I have. Yeah. Anybody want to know how to use the down the bottom where there's reactions? If you click on that, there's a little thing at the bottom of the emojis that come up that says raise hand, and then you get that, which sort of indicates that you're usually you use it for whether you want to speak or just indicate something. So quite a few, and certainly having asked lots of people over lots of years, it's certainly more common than not that people have had some uh, experience of prayer working at a distance. And I hope that through these sessions that we run, some more of you will come to experience that. And I haven't said it for a while, but I'll sort of go back to my own experience when I was really ill with cancer back in the 70s and not expected to live for very long. And I know one of the things that I really drew strength from was the fact of knowing that people were actually praying for me. And it's curious to look back on it because this was organised for me through a friend who I didn't know particularly well. I knew a little bit, but this friend said that they knew a prayer group. There were about 20, 30 people in it, depending on the day. And they prayed for people and would I like to be included? And I did, I agreed to that pretty keenly because I was pretty sick and I was happy to give anything a go. And this is where it's interesting. Whether it was in my mind that I sort of just activated something thinking that people were praying for me, or whether that prayer actually did something directly for me. I'm not fussy really. I think there's been studies done on prayer where people have known they were being prayed for, and some other studies done where people haven't known that they were prayed for, and there's been positive outcomes in both situations. So, yeah, I think the thing to do when you accept being helped through this way, and I mean what we're doing here, I wouldn't classify in the traditional sense of prayer, although it has quite a bit in common with prayer. Um, the thing to do is if you're going to get involved in something like that, is to find out what's involved, who's involved and what the deal is, as it were, and make your inquiries and use your analytical mind to work out whether you're going to do it or not in advance. And then what I'd really encourage you to do is when it comes to the time of actually entering into the practice like we're doing now, it's best to do all you can to let go of any critical thinking, having recognised that you've done that previously. You've done the sort of will I do this or will I not, and used whatever reasons you have for that, and you've decided to join in. So having done that, you say, well, I've thought about this, I've reflected on it. Maybe you'd speak to people about it, whatever, and you've made the decision to do it. And at that point, the ideal thing is to let go of the critical thinking and to be as open as you can, so that you don't have that sort of critical thinking stand in the way of what's possible. So I would always suggest when you do a practice like this is to enter into it fully and have that sense of gratitude that we talk about quite a lot, but just in a gentle way. Be grateful that that other people are interested enough to actually want to share a healing energy with you, and basically to expect a miracle. And if you think about that, if you reflect on that, a miracle is simply something that happens without any known explanation. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't an explanation, and it certainly doesn't mean that it's sort of like necessarily has to be like an act of God. It's just that something happens that in the current way of thinking we don't understand. So I think that this possibility of healing is really strong, and I would encourage you to join in with that open, positive expectation that extraordinary things can happen. Extraordinary, as in out of the ordinary. And for those of you who in this session are offering to be the conduits, as it were, for this sort of use of the mind and for this healing potential, thank you for helping in that way. I hope you feel good in doing it, and it's quite possible you can get some benefit, because in actual fact, to prepare to do this well, we do all we can to clear our own mind and body, and then have the sense of this healing energy moving through us. So it can actually be quite invigorating, revitalizing, healing to actually do this practice for other people. And so just as I'll say a few more things. If you want to have a look in the chat, then Saurabh's put there the list of people who've wanted to receive healing in this session. There are others who prefer to remain anonymous, which is fine. And I imagine it's the same with those giving, that we quite well, you'll see there's a lot more people in the meeting than have registered, but it can be nice to look through the list, whether you're giving or receiving, and then just prepare to actually enter into this exercise. So again, if you're new to this exercise, it's one that you can do sitting up or lying down, in any position really. It's one that probably more than most doesn't matter so much if you do happen to go to sleep. Probably better to stay asleep if you've got the choice. It's not going to be a big problem. And so some of you might like to get into a position where you can stay after the session finishes formally. And if you've done the sleep exercises with us, we don't formally finish those exercises, because some people like to get into bed and use the practice to go off to sleep. But with this one, we will finish it formally, but quite gently, quietly. So if you want to stay on, if you get into a good place with the exercise, which people often report, then if you do want to just stay there for a while and stay in that energy and the feeling of the practice, then that can be a good thing to do. So just give a little bit of thought to the posture you'd like to be in. And if you need to change your posture, then take a few moments to do that. Just adjust your body. And then just settle into your posture. So it's like having that feeling of actually relaxing into your posture. and having a real feeling of your mind being in your body. So there's a sense of connection between mind and body. So just a simple way to do that is just to check in with your body. So this isn't a judgmental check-in, like is it good or bad, or is it hurt or not hurt? It's just actually noticing your body and feeling a sense of connection with it. So if it does happen to have any particular sensations, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, aim to just notice them and have that recognition that at this particular moment in time, that's actually how your body's feeling. And in this particular moment, it also can be helpful to recognize that you can't change it. It might change in the next 5 minutes or the next 5 days, but right now, this is how your body's feeling. And with that understanding that it can't change immediately, hopefully there can come an acceptance and just a realization that this is how it is at this particular moment. And in the back of your mind, you can have the understanding that things are changing all the time. So even if you don't do anything, things will change. So you can be open to whatever changes might unfold. And you can have a strong wish that they unfold for good. You know, that you do come to feel more comfortable, more healthy, more well. But it's almost like having that wish as a background sort of trend. It's not like a forceful, willful sort of thing. So if we're one of the people who are receiving in this session, maybe you can just concentrate on relaxing your body a little, on your breath, and just relaxing into the feeling of the natural ease of just being sitting here, and have the real sense that for you right now, there's nothing else that you need to be doing. There's nowhere else that you need to be. There's no one you need to be pleasing or satisfying. It's just a time where you can rest gently, quietly, in this receptive, open way. And having that sense that this healing energy is being generated by other people and will be coming your way. So for those who are giving this evening, you too, just checking in with your body. And just checking, reminding yourself of your motivation, that you're aiming to use to draw on an energy, like an energy field that's bigger than yourself. Whether you relate that to a particular spiritual tradition or to a more generic sense of the incredible amount of energy there is in the universe. Just reminding yourself that you're going to draw on that unlimited energy and aim to focus it and direct it to people in need of healing. So it's not like this is something you're generating from within your own energetic field, as it were. It's very much the sense that we're aiming to relax our bodies, our minds, our own energetic field, as it were, and allowing this energy to be directed through us. So for those who are giving, the next thing to do is to imagine in symbolic form, as if it's in the sky above you, the highest source of power that you know. What represents that? So for some it might be a spiritual figure like Christ or Mother Mary or Buddha, or figure from another tradition, symbol for another tradition. What embodies the higher source of power you know? And if you'd rather have a more universal symbol, maybe a ball of light like the sun. But what comes to mind for you that represents visually that sort of universal energy, if you want to call it godlike energy? And imagine that symbol, that representative figure or object, as if it's in the sky above you, and that it's almost like a hologram, rather than being like a solid figure or a solid sun, as it were. It's more ephemeral. It's more like a light field. So you might be able to see the details of the body of the person that you're bringing to mind, or the sun. But it's like they're luminous, like a light body rather than a solid flesh body. And if you are in the traditional habit of prayer, you could direct whatever prayer feels appropriate for you to that source. Or you might just like to have that, just to hold in mind that wish, that you can draw on the infinite energy that they represent and direct it to people in need, and that it can be effective in helping to bring about healing for those who need it. So have that as a strong wish, a strong prayer, really strong aspiration. And have the sense that wish, that prayer, that aspiration is registered by the figure that you have in mind or the object, and it responds. So if it's a figure, the figure smiles. If it's something more abstract like the sun, it's like there's like a movement. And the result of that is that the figure or the sun actually glows even stronger with light, like turning up a dimmer switch, just brighter and brighter until it's really intense. And then in response to your wish, your request, a stream of light comes from the very centre, like from the heart of the figure or the centre of the sun, and just gently starts to flow down towards you, a bit like a searchlight, like a cone of light coming down towards you. And that it's not only light, but it has like a vapour, almost like a liquid quality. So it's like liquid light, a bit like being under a fine waterfall or a fine shower. And as it flows down towards you, and as it reaches to your head, it not only washes around your head, but actually through your head. So it moves down through your body quite slowly, a bit like water filtering down through dry sand. It just slowly filters down through your body, and in the process has that effect of cleansing and purifying your own body. And your own body begins to glow with that same intense white light. So it flows down through your head and your neck, out across the shoulders, and then down through your arms, down through your torso, down through your legs. And it's a bit like if you had a vase with the outline, the shape of your own body. It was filled with sand, dry sand, and now it's filling up with this liquid white light, just filtering down through it. But rather than like water into sand, just making it wet, this is like intense light. So gradually, this goes right down into your toes, your feet, and then fills up your body through the calves, thighs, up through your torso, same time through your hands, up through your forearms, upper arms, and right up through your body. So once you have that sense that your own body is filled with this same luminous light, now as the next thing, bring to mind somebody that you know personally who's in need of healing, or is just going through a difficult time, or you know could use a little bit of an energy boost. Maybe they're down in spirits. And imagine that person as if they're in front of you. And have the wish that you can help them through this way. And as you do that, imagine a beam of light coming from your own heart and relaying this energy that's coming from that infinite source down through your own body, out through your own heart, to the heart of this person in need. And have the sense that they feel it. They feel this warmth, this loving kindness. It's really strong energy for good. This energy that has the capacity to restore natural good health wherever it's needed. It's a bit like a healthy immune system just knows where to go in the body to bring about healing, just as it's needed. This energy has that same capacity. It can reinvigorate an immune system. It can be directed to a particular place. So if you know this person that you have in mind has a particular problem, you can imagine the light being more intense, going more particularly to that area. And then that sense and the image of this person that you know being filled with this light and them just resting in it. And now bring to mind the people who've requested healing, to be receiving it in this exercise we're doing together. And maybe you do know some of these people. But for many of us, we'll be able to imagine something of what they're dealing with. So now collectively imagine the group that's gathered here. And imagine this same light going out to each one of those people. So again, you imagine drawing on this infinite light, with that light representing all that's life affirming, healing, all that's creative for good, loving kindness. And imagine it flowing down into your own body, that sense again of your body being filled with that light. And it's almost like it's overflowing, just flowing through you. And just in a gentle way, that sense of you directing it to these other people, imagining it going to their hearts. Imagine them feeling the warmth, the energy, a sense of reassurance that can come with this. A bit like that feeling a baby can have in its mother's arms. So if you're one of the people who's receiving this energy tonight, today, it's almost like you can help draw this energy in. Just feel it coming into your heart, warming your heart. And then feel it just gently flowing out all through your body. Sometimes you can feel what's almost like a warmth or a tingling flowing out with the light as it spreads, flows out through the body. Maybe you can tap into that energy of a peaceful baby in its mother's arms, that sort of deep sense of contentment, safety, warmth. So feeling it all through. You can feel this light, this energy, loving kindness, healing. Feel it all through your body and your mind. Just going with it. Going with it. Feeling it all through. More and more. Deeper and deeper. Just going with it. And just resting in that feeling for a few moments now. Just going with it. So maybe you'd like to just stay in this feeling for a little longer. Some of you, it might be time to complete the exercise. Good to have a sense of gratitude for all who've contributed in this practice. And a strong wish from all of us here that you have good health, long life, find contentment and meaning in your life. So we'll just quietly end the session there. If you'd like to stay on, you'll be very welcome.